The universe must have a twisted sense of humor because when the blizzard hit, it chose the exact moment I was alone with her. And by her, I mean the librarian I had been trying not to fall in love with for the past year. It was supposed to be an ordinary Wednesday afternoon at the university library, the kind of day when deadlines piled higher than the stacks of books around me, and I buried myself in caffeine and anxiety. But when the storm roared in and the loudspeakers announced the campus was shutting down, I realized something that made my stomach twist. Everyone had left except me. And her. She was standing near the circulation desk, sliding the last returned book onto a cart, utterly unfazed by the storm thrashing against the tall glass windows. The snow was already swallowing the world outside, wrapping the campus in a white silence that felt both suffocating and unreal. Her name was Evelyn Grant. To most students she was just the librarian, polite, efficient, a little intimidating in that way people are when they're too beautiful to look at for long. But to me, she was the center of every excuse I'd ever made to spend extra hours here. The reason my laptop charger always seemed to die, so I had to ask for one at the front desk. The reason I took twice as long returning books just so I could hear her voice when she thanked me. And now, fate had decided to strand me here with her. "Looks like we're stuck," she said, finally meeting my eyes. Her voice was calm, melodic, like she wasn't even surprised by the universe's cruel trick. I laughed nervously. "You're telling me the biggest storm of the decade chooses today? That's just great. I didn't even bring gloves." Evelyn tilted her head, a small smile flickering at the corners of her lips. "I don't think gloves are your biggest problem right now." She wasn't wrong. The real problem was that I couldn't seem to stop staring at her. The hours crawled by, the storm refusing to let up. Campus security had announced the roads were closed. No one was allowed to leave until further notice. I tried to focus on my laptop, on the essay due tomorrow, on anything but her, but the silence between us kept pulling my attention back like a magnet. The library lights hummed softly above us. Outside, snow pressed against the windows, erasing the world. It felt like we were suspended in time, two people trapped in a snow globe. And maybe that's what terrified me most. Because with no one else around, I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't hide behind the excuse of being just another student. Couldn't stop myself from seeing her not as the untouchable librarian, but as a woman. A woman whose presence made my chest ache in ways I didn't have words for. I kept stealing glances at her. The way her dark hair had loosened from its bun, a strand falling against her cheek. The way she leaned against the desk, arms folded, like she carried the weight of secrets I could never imagine. Then she caught me looking. And instead of turning away, she held my gaze. The air between us shifted, suddenly heavier. Like the storm outside had found its twin in here. I should probably explain something about myself. I wasn't brave. Not in the ways that mattered. I had mastered sarcasm, deflection, even self-deprecation. But when it came to my heart, I was a coward. Growing up in a small town in Ohio had taught me one thing very well. Don't give people reasons to see you as different. Don't let them know who you really are. So I'd built walls. Safe, invisible walls. And Evelyn was the first person who ever made me want to tear them down. "Are you working on something important?" she asked suddenly, nodding toward my laptop. I blinked, snapping out of my spiral. Yeah, just an essay. 19th century American literature. Emerson and all that transcendentalist stuff. She murmured, stepping closer. Curiosity softening her face. "Let me guess, you waited until the last minute?" I chuckled, embarrassed. "You make it sound like you've been watching me." Her lips curved into that faint, unreadable smile again. "Maybe I have." The words hit me harder than they should have. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. It was just her voice, her eyes, the quiet intensity beneath her calm surface. The kind of intensity that could unravel me. The storm stretched into the evening. The heating system kicked into overdrive, humming through the vents. Evelyn brewed us tea in the tiny staff kitchenette, the steam curling between us as we sat across from each other at one of the long wooden tables. Conversations slipped easily from books to music to little details about our lives. She told me she'd grown up in Boston, had moved here 2 years ago, and secretly hated the Midwest winters. I told her about my stubborn little brother who texted me memes at the worst possible times. But there were things we didn't say too. Like why her eyes lingered on me longer than necessary. Like why my voice caught when she laughed. It was unspoken, but it was there. By the time the clock struck midnight, the storm was still raging, the campus buried deeper under snow. Evelyn and I were walking between the tall stacks, the air thick with the smell of old paper and polished wood. You know, she said softly, trailing her fingers along the spines of books. There's something comforting about being trapped in here. Like the world can't reach us. I swallowed hard. Or maybe like the world finally can't distract us. She stopped, turned to me. Her eyes were darker now, shadows deepening in the lamplight. Do you always say things like that? She asked. I almost lied. Almost said something sarcastic to defuse the tension. But the truth spilled out before I could stop it. Only when I'm with you. Silence. The kind of silence that holds its breath. And then she stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, something warm and subtle like sandalwood. My heart hammered in my chest, every instinct screaming to look away, to retreat, to rebuild the walls I'd spent years perfecting. But I didn't. For the first time I didn't. That night, under the hum of the lights and the watchful eyes of thousands of silent books, something changed. Not because we kissed. Not yet. But because she reached out, her hand brushing against mine on the shelf. Just the lightest touch. And my entire world shifted. The touch lasted less than a second, but it branded me. It was nothing, barely even contact, but my pulse surged so hard I thought she must hear it. The hum of the overhead lights, the muffled roar of the storm outside, the silence between the shelves, all of it dissolved into that fragile spark between her fingers and mine. Evelyn didn't flinch. She didn't pull away either. She just looked at me, steady and unreadable, like she was measuring what I'd do next. I wanted to lean in to close the breath of space between us, but fear pinned me in place. Fear of misreading her. Fear of crossing a line. Fear of losing the fragile magic hanging in the air. So I stayed still. She exhaled, soft and slow, and withdrew her hand. That faint, guarded smile returned, though her eyes gave her away. They held something unspoken, something fragile that mirrored my own. We should get some rest, she said, her voice quieter now. I nodded, pretending my world hadn't just tilted on its axis. We made makeshift beds in the staff lounge, Evelyn offering me the small couch while she settled with a blanket in the armchair. The storm kept thrashing at the windows, but inside it was warm, dimly lit, cocoon-like. I lay awake long after she'd closed her eyes, watching the shadows shift across the ceiling, listening to the rhythm of her breathing. And I hated myself for how badly I wanted to cross that little stretch of carpet between us. But wanting wasn't enough. Not for me. Not yet. The next morning, the storm still showed no mercy. Snow drifts rose higher than the library's entrance doors, wind shrieking through the cracks. Campus alerts confirmed it. We weren't going anywhere for another day at least. If last night had been charged with possibility, today felt heavier. The weight of reality creeping back in. We tried to distract ourselves. Evelyn suggested we raid the staff cabinets for breakfast packets of oatmeal, instant coffee, half-stale granola bars. She made a face at the powdered creamer that made me laugh harder than I should have. Don't tell anyone, she said, mock serious as she stirred her mug. I have a reputation to uphold. Students already think I live on sophistication and silence. Guess you just shattered the illusion, I teased. She shot me a look over her glasses that made my chest ache. By afternoon, we wandered the library together, restless energy driving us through aisles and forgotten corners. She showed me rare collections stored in locked cabinets, first editions she handled with reverence. She told me stories of the building's history, like how a group of students once staged a sit-in here during the 60s, demanding more diverse representation in the curriculum. Listening to her, I realized how much I didn't know about her. Not just the facts, but the depths beneath her calm exterior. And I wanted to know everything. But every time our eyes lingered too long, every time silence stretched too heavy, that fear surged back. What if she didn't feel it too? What if I ruined everything? It happened in the reading room. We were sitting at one of the long oak tables, books scattered around us more as props than anything else. The snow outside had quieted, falling in thick, steady sheets, the kind that made the world blur at the edges. I caught her staring at me. Not accidentally. Not fleeting. Just staring. Her chin rested on her hand, eyes locked on me like I was something she couldn't look away from. My breath hitched. "What?" I whispered, trying to smile, trying not to fall apart. Evelyn blinked, as if realizing she'd been caught. A flush crept across her cheeks. "Nothing," she said quickly, but her voice betrayed her. Too soft. Too vulnerable. I leaned in, pulse racing. Evelyn. Her name felt dangerous on my tongue, like saying it might set fire to the silence around us. She looked at me then, really looked, and the mask she always wore slipped. For the briefest moment I saw it all. The longing, the restraint, the same battle I was fighting inside myself. And then she pulled back. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood abruptly, gathering the books into a stack that didn't need organizing. "I should check the generator," she muttered, not meeting my eyes. "Just in case." And just like that, the moment shattered. That night, the distance between us grew. She avoided lingering too close, avoided letting her eyes linger on mine. I tried to joke, to lighten the mood, but my words fell flat. The storm had become less of a prison and more of a mirror, forcing us to confront things we weren't ready to admit. Lying awake on the couch again, I wondered if I'd imagined it all. The spark, the stolen looks, the tension thick enough to choke on. Maybe I'd built it up in my head. Maybe she was just being kind. But then I heard it. Her voice low, breaking in the dark. "I hate how much this scares me," she whispered, not knowing I was awake. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. She didn't say anything else. Just shifted in her chair, pulling the blanket tighter around her. But it was enough. Enough to keep me awake the rest of the night, heart pounding with the knowledge that I wasn't alone in this. The storm broke the next afternoon. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, glinting off mountains of snow piled against the doors. Crews would come soon, we were told. By evening, the library would reopen. The spell was ending. And with it came panic. Because if I walked out of here without saying something, without doing something, I'd regret it forever. But how do you confess to someone who's built her life on restraint? How do you reach for someone when the world outside these walls might tear it all apart? We stood at the front desk together, waiting for the plows to arrive, silence stretching like an unfinished sentence. I looked at her. She looked at me. And I knew this was it. The last chance. "Evelyn," I began, my voice shaking. "These past 2 days. They weren't just, but I never finished." Because she closed the space between us in 2 strides, her hand cupping my face, her lips crashing into mine with a force that left me breathless. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was everything we'd been holding back, breaking free all at once. The storm outside might have ended, but inside we were just beginning. Kissing Evelyn felt like falling through ice into fire. Every defense I had built for years, the walls, the sarcasm, the careful distance, crumbled the second her lips met mine. There was no warning, no gentle testing of boundaries, just a raw, desperate collision of truths neither of us could keep buried any longer. She tasted of black tea and sleepless nights. Her hand trembled against my cheek, betraying the battle raging inside her. And yet she didn't pull away. I did. Not because I wanted to. God no. But because the shock of it, the enormity of what had just happened, sent my body reeling. We stared at each other, breathing hard, as if we just sprinted through the snowdrifts outside. "That," I started, but the word fractured in my throat. Evelyn closed her eyes, exhaling sharply. When she opened them again, they were clouded with something heavy. "That shouldn't have happened," she whispered. The words sliced through me. I tried to laugh, though it sounded brittle. Funny, because I was thinking it was the only thing that should have happened. Her jaw tightened. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me," I said, stepping forward despite the shaking in my legs. "Because I can't keep pretending like I don't feel what I feel when I'm near you." Evelyn's silence stretched, unbearable. She turned, bracing her hands against the desk like the wood could anchor her. Finally she spoke, voice raw. "I can't risk this. Not with you. You're a student. You're a woman I care about." I cut in, harsher than I intended. "And last time I checked, caring isn't a crime." Her laugh was bitter, sharp. "You think the world sees it that simply? You think the university would? My career could end, do you understand that?" I flinched. Because she was right. The world wasn't kind to women like us, and institutions were worse. Rumors could spread like wildfire. A kiss could be twisted into scandal, into shame. But my heart didn't care about logistics or reputations. My heart only knew the way hers had beaten against mine in that stolen moment. Evelyn. My voice cracked. Please. Don't tell me it meant nothing. She looked at me then, really looked, and the anguish in her eyes was enough to undo me. It meant everything, she said. And then she turned away. The plows arrived an hour later. By the time the snow was cleared and students began trickling back onto campus, Evelyn had rebuilt her mask. Polite, composed, untouchable. To anyone else she looked exactly the same. But I could see the fissures. The way her hand shook slightly when she signed a late return slip. The way her eyes avoided mine as if contact might shatter us both. When it was time for me to leave, she didn't say goodbye. She just nodded, dismissive, like I was any other student. And I walked out into the blinding snow, my chest burning with everything we had left unsaid. The days that followed were torture. I told myself to focus on classes, on deadlines, on anything but her, but my mind betrayed me. Every corner of campus reminded me of her. The coffee shop where she sometimes sat grading catalog requests, the lecture hall lined with books she'd recommended, even the scent of paper and ink that clung to my clothes after every library visit. I tried to stay away. God, I tried. But avoiding the library was like avoiding air. My friends noticed my distraction, my sudden quiet, but I deflected with jokes and excuses. Inside I was unraveling. And the worst part? She was there every day behind that desk, pretending nothing had happened. Pretending I was invisible. A week later I snapped. I stayed after closing, waiting until the last student shuffled out. Evelyn looked up, startled to see me still sitting at the long oak table. You can't be here, she said quickly, gathering her things. We're closed. Then fire me. I shot back, my voice sharper than I'd ever used with her. Her eyes narrowed. Don't be ridiculous. What's ridiculous? I said, standing now, the words pouring out faster than I could control. Is acting like that night didn't happen. Acting like you didn't kiss me. Acting like you don't feel the same way I do. Evelyn's hands froze mid-motion. Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't turn around. I can't do this, she said finally, her voice a strained whisper. Yes, you can. My voice cracked, but I pushed on. You're just scared. And so am I. But Evelyn, if we keep pretending, if we keep hiding, then what was the point of any of it? Silence stretched between us. Finally, she turned, her eyes blazing with a mix of fury and pain. You don't know what you're asking me to risk. Then let me risk it with you, I pleaded. Don't shut me out just because the world is cruel. Her mask slipped for the briefest moment, and I saw the same longing, the same ache I carried. But then she shook her head. Go home, she said. And her voice broke. That night I cried harder than I had in years. Not because she didn't want me, but because she did and still chose the cage of fear over the possibility of us. Weeks passed. Life went on as it always does, indifferent to heartbreak. The storm became just another story students told. The week the campus shut down, the week people got stranded in dorms or hooked up out of boredom. No one knew that for me it had been the week my world cracked open and then slammed shut again. I buried myself in work, in classes, in distractions that never worked. But every time I passed the library, I felt that ache flare all over again. And I started to wonder, how long could two people deny what was burning between them before it consumed them both? One evening near finals week I found out. The library was nearly empty, the kind of eerie quiet that only came when exhaustion hung over campus like a fog. I wandered the stacks trying to focus on research when I heard it. A muffled sound from the back office. Curiosity or maybe desperation pulled me closer. And then I saw her. Evelyn, head in her hands, shoulders shaking. My chest clenched. I had never seen her cry. Without thinking I stepped inside. Evelyn. She jerked up, hastily wiping her eyes, her mask shattering too late. I'm fine, she said quickly, her voice raw. Just allergies. In December? I asked gently. She gave a short, humorless laugh. Fine. You caught me. Congratulations. I moved closer, heart hammering. What's wrong? For a moment I thought she wouldn't answer. But then she whispered, I can't keep doing this. Pretending. Pushing you away. Pretending I don't think about you every second I'm awake. The world tilted. Then don't, I whispered back. Evelyn looked at me, tears glistening, walls finally crumbling. And in that moment I knew this was our crossroads. Either we let the world dictate our story, or we wrote it ourselves. That night, for the first time, she didn't push me away. She let me hold her. She let herself be vulnerable, fragile in my arms, as if she'd been waiting years to exhale. And though the world outside still loomed, for the first time we weren't afraid. We had chosen each other. Love in secret burns hotter than love in the open. For weeks, Evelyn and I carved out stolen hours in the shadows of the library. A lingering touch as she handed me a book. A whispered conversation in the staff lounge long after the doors closed. A kiss pressed against the spines of forgotten volumes, where no one could see us but the dust and the moonlight. It was intoxicating. It was terrifying. Because secrets always demand their price. The first crack came in the form of whispers. A classmate caught me leaving the library after midnight. Hair mussed, lips still swollen from Evelyn's kiss. He raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Still paranoia seeped in. Every glance in the hallway felt like suspicion. Every smile from a stranger felt edged with malice. And Evelyn she felt it even more. She grew quieter, more guarded, reminding me over and over of the risk. "They'll say I took advantage," she whispered one night, her hands trembling against my face. "They'll say you were too young, too naive. They'll destroy me." "They don't know us," I said fiercely. "They don't know what this is." But she pulled away anyway, fear written in every line of her body. The storm inside us built until it finally broke. It was late spring when the rumors reached the dean's office. Someone had seen us or thought they had. We were called in separately, questions sharp and cold, the weight of authority pressing down like a stone. Evelyn denied everything. I did too. But when I looked at her across that sterile office, her face pale, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles whitened, I realized what the secrecy was doing to us. We were killing ourselves just to survive. That night, I found her in the library again. She stood by the tall windows, watching the campus bathe in the gold of a setting sun. "Say the word," she said before I could speak. "Say the word and I'll end this. I'll transfer, resign, disappear, whatever it takes. Just say it and I'll set you free." Her voice broke on that last word. I crossed the room, every step heavy with the truth I'd carried for months. "I don't want to be free," I said. She turned, tears brimming in her eyes. "I want you," I continued. "Not the secret, not the hiding, not the shame. You. Whatever it costs." Her breath caught. "You don't know what you're asking." "Yes, I do." My voice shook, but I didn't waver. "I'm asking you to stop running. To stop letting fear write our story. To choose me. Just once choose me." Silence. The kind of silence that could crush or heal. And then slowly trembling she reached for my hand. "I've been choosing you every day," she whispered. I just didn't know how to stop being afraid. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Whispers didn't vanish overnight. The university circled like vultures, searching for scandal. We walked a line so thin it felt ready to snap at any moment. But something had shifted. Evelyn no longer pulled away when our fingers brushed. She no longer avoided my eyes like they were dangerous. She let herself love me in the small, defiant ways that mattered most. And for the first time I believed we might survive this. Graduation came with the heat of summer, cicadas buzzing in the trees. My family clapped from the stands, oblivious to the storm that had defined my final year. When I crossed the stage, I looked out into the crowd and found her. Evelyn, standing at the very back, her face lit with pride she couldn't hide. Our eyes met. And in that single look, the months of fear and secrecy, of heartbreak and healing, condensed into one unshakable truth. We had made it through. Not unscarred. Not untouched. But together. Years later, when people ask me how we met, I smile and tell them the simple version. We were snowed in at the university library. What I don't tell them is the rest, the storm inside us, fiercer than any blizzard, the fear that nearly broke us, the love that stitched us back together. That part is ours alone. But when Evelyn squeezes my hand, when her laugh still warms me like the first sip of tea in winter, I know this much. That snowstorm was never an accident. It was fate, locking us in with nothing but silence and truth, until we could no longer deny what had been waiting all along. And from that moment on, I never saw her the same way again. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.